long overdue Red Pill Nation Hangout 440. I am your regular host, Naroki5. With me tonight is I'm kind of glad. I am actually very, very glad he showed up tonight because I was prepared to do this by myself because it's just been that kind of a goddamn week for me. Rearson. So Rearson, introduce yourself.
Oh, good day, evening, whatever time of the 24-hour cycle it is you are. I am Rearson. I've owned this jackass for a very long time. And if things actually go well, this is likely to be my last podcast period. I'm not going to have time for this.
All right, yeah. Well, I'm proud to be a jackass too, by the way, and so is Rearson.
You're talking to two naturally apt jackasses. You're listening to two natural jackasses.
Okay.
I'm just going to say this right now as well too. I may be from Ontario originally, but I am not a Leafs fan. So the fact that they got eliminated again, I don't care. I mean, the fact that they got where they did, great. But
oh god, they got their asses kicked tonight. It was like Jesus fucking Christ, guys! Like, could you get past the second round for a change? You know, it's like, I mean, we're kind of getting a little bit off the tangent here. Toronto has not won a cup since 1967. I mean, that is longer than the Rangers drought, for fuck's sakes.
That's just before you were born.
Literally just before I was born. The Leafs have not won a cup since I've been alive. They are way overdue. Even after I'm so sympathetic to them, even though I'm from Vancouver, I am actually like kind of sympathetic towards the Maple Leafs plight. I would like to see them at least. They haven't even gotten to the finals, for crying out loud. Like, they haven't even gotten to the finals. I mean, even Vancouver has gotten to the finals, for crying out loud. Like, Toronto hasn't even gotten close. I mean, they got really close back in '93, and that's about it, right?
I only care about hockey once every 4 years, and even then, if Canada doesn't get the gold, oh well, whatever. Life goes on.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the way things are going in Canada, we might not ever be cheering for Team Canada again.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that when we get to Carney.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation about that tonight. So this, of course, this is me. All right, for those of you who don't know, I am at, in order of size of site, BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, MGTOW TV, Brighteon, and YouTube. Insight news. Yes. All right. First of all, this is 440, not 441. We will be doing 441 tomorrow. I am going to figure out all the topics. Again, it's just been an absolute clusterfuck of a week, which I'm actually going to comment about before we get into the actual show proper, just because I think it needs to be commented on. I'd like to also say I have hello to our one whole listener. Yeah, it's been that kind of week, but I'm going to get into something that happened on a personal level, and I don't usually get into this sort of thing, but I'm working a job right now that has me going home usually between 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning. And what ended up happening, I believe it was Thursday morning, is that I was driving back home in an empty, and it was a completely empty mall parking lot when this happened. I was driving along, and this guy he was going about 50, 60 kilometers an hour in a mall parking lot that was empty. And fortunately for him, I was paying attention and I was able to slam the brakes on. But I mean, you know, that incident as I was driving away from it, feeling very, very relieved because if my it would have totaled my car and it could have potentially put me in the hospital because he was going fast enough that it would have been the equivalent of driving on the street if he'd hit me. And this is something that I need everybody who's listening to consider. The issue with this is that, when don't just assume that everything is going to be hunky dory all the time. Because, I'm not going to lie, man, stuff can happen. Like, stuff can legit happen out of the blue. And when you're not expecting it, it can turn your life potentially upside down. Like, had I gotten hit by that vehicle today or on Thursday morning, I'd be out of vehicle because I can't really afford to make any. I'd be out of vehicle. I would be out work because I needed the vehicle for work. Could have potentially ended up in the hospital. Could have ended up with some permanent physical injuries. Yes, I was wearing my seatbelt, by the way, right? If you're in a situation where, and this is something that I think a lot of us need to consider here, if you're in a situation where one potential thing going wrong can turn your life upside down, right? That is a situation I think that needs to be acknowledged by you. And when you need to acknowledge it, you need to make the changes in your life so that one potential, yes, life happens, right? But, bottom line with the situation that I'm currently in, one thing going wrong at this point could have been potentially enough to really get me. And I don't have the family that I used to have, right? I could have been in some serious, serious trouble, right? So yeah, in light of all of the stuff that's happening politically right now and culturally, right? Like, if you're in a situation where one thing going wrong could potentially put you out on the street or in the hospital or whatever with no real recourse, that's a situation that needs to be addressed. That's a situation that needs to be cured. And that's something that really got home with me. Mind you, this time last year, I was not in that situation. Right here, right now, I am. And I'm not going to go into the details as to why. Just food for thought for tonight as we're going through this show. How you choose to get there is strictly up to you, but yeah, that's something I think a lot of us need to be considerate of and be grateful for where we are and what we actually do have. Now, for those of you who don't know, again, as I said, I'm also at Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, Getter, TLB Talks, and that is pretty much it for social media. Our topics for tonight are as follows. Topic number 1, Antifa tears its ugly head, rears its ugly head at the University of Washington. Topic number 2, India and Pakistan are very close to war. 3, racists attempting to take down Shilo Hendricks fundraiser on GiveSendGo. Topic number 4, Mark Carney attempting multiple recounts to get himself into a majority in the House of Commons. Topic number 5, which I'm going to let Rearson take the lead on, O'Keefe Media exposes Prince Andrew. And topic number 6, Thunderbolts attempts to rebrand itself as the new Avengers in the face of flagging sales, which is kind of unfortunate because the Thunderbolts movie, aka the new Avengers, is actually not that bad of a movie, folks. Just so you know. We will be doing 441. I will be doing 441 come hell or high water tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to start working on setting that up. I'm going to be setting that up as soon as I'm done this show tonight. Other site news, I have passed 800 in total subs. I am within shooting distance of hitting 200 on BitChute. I'm also probably going to cross 200 possibly over the summer on Rumble. So, yeah, I'm actually doing not too badly. The channel continues to grow. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more because I also was trying to do the Naroki 5 live stream, and that has been something that I've really had to struggle with because of all of the instability around work and so forth. I will be picking that up again at some point. There's a lot of stuff to cover there. With that, unless Rearson has something else to say, we will get into topic number 1. Here, let me just hold on a second here. Oh, of course, Teams is not booting up again. Of course. Oh, wait, no, there we go. All right, so unless Rearson has something else to say, we are going to get into topic number 1, which is Antifa rears its ugly head at the University of Washington, and of course, it won't let me edit. Oh, wait, nope, there we go. All right.
Oh, you're just having a hell of a day, my friend.
Yeah, I'm having one hell of a day. Okay, so I can't help but feel that what ended up happening here is that Antifa decided to make a reappearance, which was really weird because you would have thought that Antifa would have made their appearance during the 2024 election, but they didn't. They stayed relatively silent, probably because it was so close this time around that having Antifa show up may have just caused enough negative press that it could have caused Kamala the election. Like, Kamala wasn't going to lose the election on her own anyway. Let's be straight up here. She wouldn't have won that election no matter what happened, no matter what the polls were saying. But yeah, what ended up happening here is that Riley Gaines made an appearance at the University of Washington. Antifa took it upon themselves to storm a building at the University of Washington, cause extensive fire damage, blockade from the police, and naturally, of course, the police backed off instead of doing their job, which gave Antifa the perception of victory. And then the university, and we're talking about one of the wokest universities in North America, went in and negotiated with Antifa as opposed to just sending in the cops and booting these people out. One of the first things that pops up with me is it's really weird how Antifa has been incredibly quiet. It was been suggested with a couple people who I listened to about this issue that this was kind of done as a wink and a nod because, a lot of this was connected to the fact that Boeing has been a pretty ardent supporter of the state of Israel. And a lot of this had to do with the fact that they didn't want Boeing and companies that were, quote unquote, sympathetic to the state of Israel supporting infrastructure in the University of Washington, except, of course, that Boeing, until Microsoft and Starbucks and a couple of other corporations moved into Seattle, Boeing was the big contractor, was the big employer in Seattle for years, all the way up until about the mid-'70s before Seattle started to diversify. The whole thing around this was, suspicions that it was kind of like a wink and a nod from both the state and the city governments that they would be allowed to do this and not get impeded. Unfortunately, fortunately for us, unfortunately for them, the optics didn't look particularly good for Antifa. They didn't. It was almost like they were trying to organically create a massive movement against to start this off to get Antifa to move again, and Antifa didn't move again. Partly, I suspect, and this is and Donald. Yes, Donald Trump did step in here, and he did send a very stern message to the University of Washington. And he said, if you allow this to happen again, you know what happened to Harvard in Pennsylvania, in Columbia, and whatever? Yeah, that's going to happen to you. And I suspect that is probably the reason why this thing didn't take off, because universities everywhere have put two and two together and have figured out that if they kind of give Antifa a wink and a nod to this sort of thing, that they risk their funding. And again, you have certain people on the left that are saying, oh, well, Donald Trump is using the threat of funding cuts to, you know, to intimidate these universities into not being places of academic freedom and whatever. And I'm like, no. The universities, up until the point where Trump got elected, the universities were a lot of them anyway, were quite happy, especially in blue states or areas like, say, Toronto or whatever, were quite happy to allow these students to run amok. And except, of course, say in places like Florida or what happened. You got to love what happened in Calgary, by the way, or what happened in places where there's not quite so much sympathy. But I mean, it became very, very obvious that they were getting outside funding, probably from probably from indirectly, either from Soros or from they also tried to deflect it away to the Iranian government, but maybe they had a part in it as well. And again, once Trump lowered the boom on Columbia, and then he had to go and do it a couple more times to make the message sink in, right? This was an attempt to try to float this through to see whether or not they actually have the support to make it work, and they don't anymore, right? I suspect that you might see Antifa rear its head from time to time from now on, but for the most part, I think Antifa, as well, for one thing, police and organizations on the other side of the fence are starting to figure out legal strategies to deal with that Antifa black bloc system. Also, if they try to do stuff like they did at Columbia or in Washington or in a couple of other places, what's going to happen is that these universities are going to risk losing their funding, right? And so they're not going to just quietly give a wink and a nod to these student organizations to go out and do what they want, especially when they have hundreds of millions of dollars potentially being risks getting cut from their funding if they allow it. So this didn't go anywhere. Quite happy about it. Again, don't think Antifa is going to be around as a significant organization, at least not until 2028 anyway. Same thing with BLM. And again, also, people are starting to get smart. Like I said, they're starting to figure out ways to deal with the black bloc. They're also realizing that Antifa is big and bad and tough when they have a dozen people against one person, but when you show up in numbers yourself. So yeah, thuggery and goonery also doesn't work. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
I mean, we've been waiting for something like this to happen for the longest freaking time. Let's be honest here, folks. Anybody with anybody with common sense, which, as the saying goes, is not so common anymore, would be. I was actually overjoyed when Trump, to a certain, I was overjoyed. Basically, told progressive universities to get back in line, go back to doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is education. Keep your leftist ideology, or if you're going to have your leftist ideology, fine. Then basically even it out with having as many right wing professors instead of being. I mean, I guess in a sense, we can look back to what Lenin had said: is that give me 5 years and I'll set the future for communism. I don't remember exactly what he said, but that was basically it. Give me 5 years to indoctrinate your kids, and the world will be different. It's just it will require time before it starts to actually show itself. So, my opinion is that the right's going to have to do what the left has been doing for since the 50s, really. But whenever communism had infiltrated itself in Hollywood, whenever that was. Oh, I don't remember the name of the movie, but Razorfist brought it up. But that's basically it. And I suppose in this sense, I'm glad I never did go or settle down in Seattle because, again, I had two individuals at the hotel that I was staying at that were he's that thought that they were she's. And I really don't have patience for that shit anymore. I really don't. So, and yeah, it's amazing. When you show up in equal force with Antifa, it's amazing how quickly they back down. I mean, you could probably pit, say, 20 Proud Boys against 50 Antifa. Not to say that there won't be exceptions to that engagement, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the Proud Boys were to basically wipe the floor with them, which I would pay to see, truth be told. But I'm more of a lover than a fighter, but that's just me. Anyway. It's, well, I mean, as the saying goes, money talks and bullshit walks, and bullshit like Antifa, I think, is going to start to walk. We'll see if that goes soon enough. But Trump is someone you don't fuck around with, especially now that he has his 4 years to do whatever he wants, as all presidents are wanting to do with their second term. They have to play it nice and don't rock the boat too much and whatever else, just to do whatever it takes to help increase your chances of re-election. It's the same thing here in this case as well. And now that he's doing the things that people want, his voter base wants, I would say give it about 20 years if this trend is to continue. And America will be a vastly different place. I wish the same would happen here in Canada, but we'll get to that. Anyway, I don't have much more to say on this one, so back to you, man.
Oh, wait, Jackal and one other person wants to view all. No, Jackal, sorry, nothing personal, but I can't have you and Steve on at the same time. That just can't happen. Sorry. I will let the other guy in though. All right, I'll have to. Sorry, Angel. I can't have you and Steve on at the same time. It just won't work. Um. So who is this new person though? Hold on a second here. What the hell? Okay, and he just disappears. All right, hold on a second here. Yeah, nothing per. I'm gonna have to send a message to Angel. Here, I can't have you and I can't have you and. Oh, for God's sakes. Okay, yeah. You know what? I'm gonna move on to the next topic here because it's just. I mean, it's trying to get everything. Trying to get everything here organized with all the glitches that I've had tonight. Just it's been a little bit of a clusterfuck. Okay, um, so the second topic tonight is, of course, everyone's worried about everyone's worried about worried about what's going on. Hold on a second here.
You don't multitask very well, my friend, but guys, you
No. It's been that kind of a day. It has just been that kind of a fucking day for me today. So yeah. India and Pakistan. India and Pakistan. What the?
what's going on?
Hold on. I don't know how he got in. I'm sorry. I have to. Sorry, Angel. I can't have you on. I can't have you on. Or who is the jackal?
That's him.
That's him?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I can't have you and Rusin on at the same time. So yeah, anyway, everyone, India and Pakistan are always constantly. In fact, India and Pakistan have the same kind of relationship that Russia and the United States had during the Cold War. They're both. What is that bleeping coming from? Oh, that's coming from. Oh, it's coming from. Yeah, it's coming from Teams. All right. Well. All right, that's coming from Teams. All right. So, India and Pakistan. So there was a big, huge blow up. Some firing. Some firing came aboard. At one point, what was going on was that they were effectively at war. Fortunately, diplomacy won out in the end, and things cooled down. But this is a quick reminder, everybody, about the fact that the United States and what's going on in Israel and what's going on in the Ukraine are not the only hotspots. There's a seriously, almost quasi continental wide war taking place in the Congo, otherwise used to be known as Zaire. There was, until Trump won, potential that Venezuela was going to invade its neighbor I think it was to the east or to the west. I can't remember. China was clearly saber rattling with Taiwan. But I mean, India and Pakistan are two very unique countries with due simply to the fact that they're both nuclear armed. So anytime there is an escalation of issues between those two, I mean, everybody hits the panic button and everybody kind of like immediately turns their attention over there. especially when it comes to Pakistan, because Pakistan has a very, very significant population of fundamentalist Muslims. And if they were to somehow get a hold of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal, and by the way, Pakistan um, got was also the culprit that sold nuclear weapons to North Korea. They potentially also sold or exchanged technology with other countries. So yeah, Pakistan's been kind of like a bit of a bad player. I also point out that Pakistan was where Osama bin Laden was also hiding out to Abbottabad. Um, so there's a lot of tension going on between Israel and between India and Pakistan, and the whole situation it's reached a couple critical points. Is India sent jets in to bomb sites in Pakistan. Pakistan returned the favor. Fortunately, the president of India and the president of Pakistan and the diplomats were able to smooth this over, because I haven't heard anything else. Of all the places in the world, though, where you might want to start panicking, I mean, everyone talks about China and everything. The situation in Israel is very heated. Israel, in those particular situations, Israel does have nuclear weapons, although, again, it's never been officially announced. Israel does have nuclear weapons, but um, in both India and Pakistan, both have nukes. And I mean, there is Pakistan has got a strong fundamentalist Muslim population, and heaven forbid, you know, be very scared, because also Pakistan has two nuclear armed subs, which were they bought off France, and those subs were designed specifically to subvert or get around the radar defenses of the advanced Western nations. You know, India, on the other hand, by the way, India is now the most populous country in the world, not China. India has the same kind of mentality towards its nukes the same way that China does. Oh, well, for instance, the United States only has 300 million and China has 1.6 million. Therefore, if we kill 1 to 1, we still have 1.3 billion people left. And that's the same sort of mentality that
Oh my
that
god.
China does. And it's like, I'm absolutely gobsmacked that generals actually think that it would be a 1-to-1 situation, or that the United States would not allow its nuclear arsenal to be used if China engaged in a large scale attack. The same thing with Russia, right? This is why I was so, and by the way, folks, and I'm going to put, somebody actually tried to convince me of this one time when it came to Russia. Oh, well, only 10% of the nuclear weapons actually work in Russia. Well, it's like, to quote Rearson, who's actually on tonight, well, that means everybody dies just what, 3-4 times over instead of 40 times over?
Well, and I'll use this in the case of China. That's assuming as well too is that they even have fuel in their actual missiles, because some high-level military personnel ended up getting executed, if I've heard this correctly,
Yeah.
by having water in in their mobile rockets, and as as a show of display, nothing worked. So I don't think that China's military is nearly as well, not funded, but doesn't have the logistics to actually make it. Not that it isn't viable. I mean, at the end of the day, if you Zerg or to go back to StarCraft, if you overwhelm your enemy with your Zerglings, then yeah, numbers matter. But I mean, how at the end of the day, really, how loyal will the soldiers be if they realize that they're the ones that are getting shafted over? Anyway, I'm going off topic here. My apologies. Back to you.
Well, I mean, well. Here's the whole issue between India and Pakistan. I mean, if it got to an actual hot war where nukes were actually being fired on each other, the conflict would not simply be confined to there. Like the nuclear fallout and the destruction
Yeah.
would boil over and would destabilize the entire region, and it would also give China the opening that it needs to resume its
Oh, yeah.
domination of the reason. And by the way, if I have to choose between, if I have to choose between China and India, I would take India in a second. I mean, that's not to say that the people in the government of India is more moral or whatever, but at least India doesn't have aspirations of being a dominating world power like China does.
I was going to say as well too. India doesn't have the desire or the drive to subvert Canada as China does. Where China wants to be a quote unquote Arctic power.
Yeah, well, that's part of again. We're kind of really getting off topic here. That's the reason why Trump wants to get
once again Canada
into the fold.
Yep.
Because it's it would make their strategy a lot. Cause like, I mean, let's face facts here. I mean, Trudeau was quite. In fact, he was actually. I suspect that if he'd been around and if Carney sticks around long enough, he'll fucking try to allow the Chinese to have access to the port of Vancouver. Like he will do it. And
apparently they already do.
Well, there's a huge amount of trade that goes on between China and the port of Vancouver in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I mean, yeah.
Anyway.
If Alberta separates, I mean, it's going to make BC's position very tenuous, and China is desperate to get their hooks into something on the west coast of North America, and Vancouver would be perfectly suited to do that. Now, again, India and Pakistan, again, right? It would be the end of India as a nation. It would also open I suspect that the Chinese may have even been kind of clandestinely encouraging this because China cannot just do human wave attacks on India. They can't do it. They don't have
not so much anymore.
Not so much anymore. They can't just go in one for one on India anymore. And this would have left things open for them. Fortunately, cooler heads prevailed. But let's just all breathe an infinite sigh of relief for the fact that there wasn't an actual hot war that occurred between China and India. Because, I mean, that could have really caused some problems. And I don't mean maybe. Like, it really could have caused some problems. And, it's like wars and rumors of war. Well, this one, a nuclear war or a hot war between India and Pakistan would have pretty much trumped everything. And that includes the negotiations. Hold on a second. Don't know why I'm getting a lot of congestion in my throat tonight, including what was going on between Russia and Ukraine. Just saying. So unless Rearson has anything else to add, we're going to move on to the next topic here.
Yeah, I could actually see this being the big hotspot between the two countries. Well, three, because I believe that China also has just like how was it said in Star Trek? Anything that the Romulan Empire or the the Cardassian Empire sees,
Cardassians.
the Cardassian sees, they're going to lay claim to it. And that's really no different than I think with China, but America's no different as well. And England, at the end of the day, the sun at one point for a very long time had never the sun never did sit on the British Empire. That being said, I believe that Kashmir has been the political hotspot between the three countries. So if it were to break out, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up, if it doesn't start there, I could see it ending there. I don't know. I have to say, though, I'm glad. Fuck. I am so glad that I do not. And this is going to be a fucking problem. This is going to be a problem in the UK. It's going to be a big fucking problem in the Toronto area because there have been. I'm going to tie this to. I'm sure that you recall when there were attacks on Hindus in Brampton, Ontario.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I can see something like that basically spilling over in the Brampton area, especially. Like the amount of Browns that are there, I would not move there. Calgary's bad enough. Fuck, I've got Sikh friends that are even saying, it's like, there are too many fucking Browns here. So this is going to spill over into ordinary, average Canadian lives. And I think.
Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, not that this is the issue with multiculturalism. This is why I think the U.S. version of this is better,
Pot.
right?
Yeah,
the melting pot, as opposed, like, I mean, yeah, there's simmering ethnic tensions in the United States, but unless somebody's artificially propping them up, like say what George Soros was fucking doing with the Palestinians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it stays under the sheets. In Canada, however, this stuff could flare. It will flare up.
It is going to flare up. I can guarantee you that.
And it's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be, in fact, it's going to be rather ugly. And, again, yet another reason I suspect why the U.S. government has decided that it's especially given the weak-kneed leadership that we've got in Canada right now, why he's making a push to try to at least get parts of Canada to join the U.S. Don't know whether it's going to all happen at once. It kind of tips off in the balance. And by the way, we will be discussing Jan Arden's bullshit. Fucking
cunt. Fucking dumbass, elitist, dumb fucking cunt. Oh, you should also throw in Andrew Coyne as well, too.
I haven't seen Andrew Coyne's. So.
Oh, okay. I'll have to try to look for it and send it to you. The guy's a complete leftist Ontario douchebag.
Anyway, we will be discussing some of the elitist reaction, and it is starting to come in. Jan Arden's response. Well, actually, I didn't see Jen. I saw it in parts because this one woman posted up something on Instagram, and I took a look at it, and I'm like, yeah, not Jen Arden, but the one who was responding to her. It's like, yeah, you go, girl. But again, right, look at what's going. Like, for instance, the city that I live in. One time I was driving into downtown Edmonton, and the Palestinian protesters they didn't completely block the bridge, because if they had the bridge in question is like literally right next to the provincial legislature building. If they had completely blocked that bridge off, things would have gotten really ugly for them. But they picked a lane and they stayed in and just made a lot of noise. I made sure to give them the middle finger the entire way.
Was it satisfying for you? Happy with yourself?
Well, I mean, it's like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't think the Israeli government is completely innocent in this. But I mean, it's very, very clear that these these protesters are being artificially propped up.
Yeah,
Right?
I would love to see where the money's coming from. I really
Yeah.
would.
What happened in Montreal was downright fucking criminal. It had weird echoes of Kristallnacht, and if you don't know what Kristallnacht was, it was a legally legislated event that happened in Germany. This was back in the 30s. This was when the brown shirts were still a thing, where the brown shirts were effectively allowed to just basically go over and destroy Jewish-owned businesses all over Germany. You know, and of course, the Jewish-owned businesses were charged for the cleanup for what the brown shirts did.
Shocker on that
The
one.
brown shirts are very similar to what Antifa, maybe not quite, maybe a little bit more violent than Antifa currently is, but yeah. The brown shirts were led by a guy by the name of Ernest Rome, and they were government sanctioned. Ernest Rome, by the way, was also a closet homosexual, and Hitler had him removed the moment he solidified his power base. Shocker, which is exactly what's going to happen to Antifa, by the way, if the globalists win. So, with that, I think we're going to move on to the next topic here, which is oh, look at that! All right, this one is.
Rocket Raj.
Look at that! Look at that! Okay, this one is really interesting. It's a good thing V's not on tonight because I think V might.
Oh, he would have lost his shit.
V would have absolutely lost his shit tonight. If he'd been on tonight. What happened here is that, and we discussed this last show. There was, and by the way, I've noticed that even on the right, they're kind of like ignoring this little issue. There was a black guy with a record as a sex offender hanging out in a park, and she caught a woman by the name of Shilo Hendricks reaming on this boy who was attempting to steal stuff from her purse. And well, actually, I really don't give a shit. She used the word nigger, right? No, I don't really particularly give a shit if that fucking causes my heaven forbid if my 59 followers on YouTube, which by the way I don't give a shit about. So feel free to take down that channel, folks. I don't care.
So what you're saying is that you're not emotionally attached to it.
I'm not emotionally attached to it. There's an individual hater who took down. I would have been probably up around 1.6, 1.7, 16, 1,700 people now if I'd kept that YouTube channel. But just to piss off the hater, my numbers right now are growing at the point that potentially by the end of June, my combined moat on all my channels together is going to exceed what I had on YouTube. So cry fucking louder. But anyway, getting back to the actual topic. So Mr. Black, sex offender, went over, put his camera up, and started filming him. And Shilo Hendricks, instead of feeling sorry, she just gave the guy the finger. He posted this up, and he figured what was going to happen was there was going to be massive cancel culture. Instead, what happened was there was massive they went to GiveSendGo. They didn't do this at GoFundMe. They went to GiveSendGo, and they've raised, I think, damn near $1 million for Shilo Hendricks and her son, right? And black racists just started screaming their lungs out. They actually literally tried, I think they tried to get GiveSendGo taken off, but they couldn't do it. They've tried to dock Shilo Hendricks, except Shilo Hendricks now has the financial resources to go into hiding if she needs to.
Good for her.
They tried going over into the mainstream media and smearing her name, except of course that Shilo Hendricks can now go into hiding because again, she has the resources to do it. Um, this is really pissing off the black racists a lot, the white
But,
haters.
but blacks can't be racist. Come on, bro. They can't be racist.
They're playing victim, and what's ending up happening is that what's going on is if you go over to TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and you're just like seeing even people who are African American, and they're going over and they're going, you know what, man, like I am just sick to fucking death of white guilt and white hate and all of that crap, right? Like I don't care anymore.
Well, at the end of the day, I refuse to be racked with white guilt. And I've made sure that my son is not going to even he's not going to have half Japanese guilt because of things that happened well before him. And he's well aware that he has no impact on it. It wasn't him, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so people are just sick to fucking death of all the victim card stuff. And again, they're trying to blame Trump for this. And it's sort of like, yeah, okay, electing Trump may have had a part to do with this, but Trump did not directly intervene in this. And
No.
to a certain degree with the BLM, and I would hate to say if this certain individual had come on the show tonight, it would have been like, yeah, dude, this would have been,
I would have left. I would have left.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, he buys into we were like that bullshit, that bullshit narrative that that the Africans ruled Europe at one point, and it's sort of like, well, dude, like the ancestral DNA would have shown that, and it doesn't, right?
Well, yes, they did to a certain point, but they didn't get too far in.
No, they only got that area south. Well,
they got around the Mediterranean. That's about as far as it went. Like they had Spain.
They had Spain, and they had at one point the Arab Empire, which, by the way, is Caucasian, not African.
What, the Ottomans?
The Ottomans, yeah, the Ottomans are European. No, talking about the Arab Empire. Arabs fall under the category of Caucasian. There are black Arabs, of course, but the original area that the Arab Empire comes from is considered Caucasian, right?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there obviously were a lot of black Arabs, obviously. But I mean, it was like at no point, and they got as far as Vienna, and they got stopped twice. They also weren't. I think they weren't able necessarily to control Greece at one point. But I mean, again, right? They did not control all of Europe, and in order for the conspiracy theory to come true, it's sort of like, well, are you aware of how, like, in order to make that work where they buried everything, like they would have had to have had, by the way, Europeans are notoriously bad for infighting. They would have had to get everybody on board on continental Europe to all bury the details about the fact that they were ruled by blacks, which is just was not going to happen. Again, ancestral DNA and with female hypergamy, like the amount of African DNA in Europeans would be substantially more if that had been the case, and it's not. But anyway, getting back to this point, it's like the whole "we was Kangs" thing, and the victim playing, and the cancel culture, and all that stuff, and everybody is like, I mean, yeah, you got the Baizu, the white liberals, and you got that 6 to 12%, that the absolute true believers and the ones who have actual the white liberals that actually have investment in victim culture. You've got them around, but you don't have a full narrative. You don't have full control. I mean, it's just, I mean, the whole thing. I mean, again, a lot of this too has to do with the fact that the mainstream media just doesn't have the weight that it used to. I mean, Piers Morgan, sorry, tried to shame this one woman because she used the N word. And what ended up happening is, I can't remember what the guy from Fresh and Fit actually wrote the word nigger down and actually like held up a sign saying it. And it was like, of course, he could do that because he was Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit, but he's already black, right? But I mean, Piers Morgan tried to shame this one woman for using it, sort of like, yeah, well, First Amendment asshole, fucking deal with it, right? Um, so there is, like, cancel culture and black outrage failed to work for the first time. And you're also seeing this with the LGBTQ community. Even in San Francisco, financial support for Pride in San Francisco is down to about a third of what it used to be, right? It's getting like they're losing everywhere and they're getting more desperate, which, by the way, there's a yin and a yang to it. Yes, they're losing and they're getting more desperate. However, when you're dealing with desperate people, they will do desperate things. And among the desperate things that they will do is they will resort to violence and intimidation. That's why you had that incident with Antifa this week as well, right? You're going to see it's gonna reach the boiling point here. I suspect at some point you're going to get some MAGA supporter getting lynched, or you're going to see, yeah, like you're seeing it everywhere. In the Manosphere content now, like the white knights are showing up with increasing regularity now. That's something else you're seeing. And by the way, I saw a debate between. I might even include it in the next in tomorrow's show. Uh, Andrew Wilson debated this male feminist and just eviscerated the guy. I'm not sure if I'm going to be adding that in or not. If Rusin wants to jump in, well, I already told. Well, we'll deal with that issue when we come to it. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
All I'm going to say is that in terms of skin color relations, I'm not going to call it racism because that's not it. Because if we were different races, we wouldn't be able to intermingle. Well, we would be able to intermingle. We wouldn't have offspring. That is, half this, half that. My son being one, you, my friend, another, and me being of parents that are both half black and half native. So I refuse to use the word. I just absolutely refuse. If there are ETs, and I do believe that there are, then yeah, that's racial relations. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. And anyone who's going to be playing up on that it's okay for blacks but whites can't do it, fuck off. Just fuck right off. You want equality, but you don't get equality on your terms. Like, this is no fucking different than listening to what women want for their definition of equality. Well, I'm going to have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I'm just going to go to the equality buffet. It's like, I like this, I like this. No, no. Being conscripted into the military? No, that's okay. That's for guys. Fuck you. All of you. Fuck you. You're either going to allow this to happen, and if someone's guilty, then someone's guilty. So, I mean, there's an immigrant. I'm pretty damn sure that's what the case is because they didn't mention anything about him. But I can assure you, if it was sexual assault and it was a white guy, media would be all over it saying that there was a white guy that did this, this, and this, and this. But honest to God, really not that far away from where I used to live in Guelph, there was a woman that was sexually assaulted by probably an African or a Pakistani, probably a Pakistani guy. And the media doesn't say a fucking word about it, about his point of origin. So you'll have to excuse me for being. I'm getting tired. I'm really, really tired of this victim mentality. Not saying shit didn't happen. Not saying that what happened in the past didn't occur. But it's time for people to just fucking grow up and be adults. No, if you've experienced discrimination, I'm not going to call it racism. I'll call it discrimination. If you've experienced it, then yeah, I'm not saying what you didn't experience wasn't real. But stop being fucking emotionally triggered like a bunch of goddamn fucking women in the middle of their goddamn fucking PMS, and they're all PMSing at the same fucking time. Fuck. Yes, and I suppose in a sense I might have a more entitled, privileged viewpoint because I'm white. But you know what? Where I'm walking around right now, I am feeling like a fucking minority being in the middle of downtown in Calgary. I assure you, I feel like a goddamn fucking minority. But I'm not going around with a victim mentality. I'm not screaming about this and that, the other thing, and whatever else. Because I'm going to be mature about it. Going to go through life to the best of my ability, and I'm going to be me. And if that upsets people, well, then that upsets people. I don't really care anymore. I really don't. So, and again, this notion that it's okay for blacks to hate on whites, but whites can't hate on black. Sorry, folks. No, no. Get over your radical. You have to get through your radicalization. You have to open up. You need to be a more honest, genuine, loving bunch of people. Fucking goddamn fucking Barack Obama. Thank that fucking half. I'll use the word. I don't give a shit. Thank God for that half nigger and his fucking his ex Y spouse. I'm sorry, but looking, she's she, with air quotes. I'm just gonna say she's got a bulge where only a guy is supposed to have a bulge. I'm sorry, unless there's some sort of an apparatus or something that's whatever. Just Obama set back discrimination by 30 to 40 to probably about 50 to 60 years. And it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of effort to get out of all of this. Oh, and don't be the least bit surprised if U.S. aid funding went to these racist black groups. Don't be the least bit surprised. I don't want to be cynical. I don't want to be. Was it you that put something up about the curse of intelligence, Rocky, on Facebook? I think you did.
Yeah, and the curse of intelligence. Well, first of all, this is something that we're kind of getting off on a bit of a tangent here.
Yep.
Intelligence by itself is not a sign of an open-minded individual. It is also not a sign that an individual is going to be, because the intelligence is a double-edged sword.
Oh yes,
like everything else.
very much.
Yeah, if you use it properly, if you're curious, if you're willing to take a look, yeah, you can see through most narratives. The only issue is, and this is something that I've noticed with me when I'm in a group of people, you know, you lose patience with people who aren't as smart and are egotistical enough to think that they're right and will act. And it's really, on the one hand, it's really difficult to sit there and tolerate that level of ignorance. But if it's somebody who's not as smart as you, it's like, okay, they don't know, they're ignorant, they're whatever, right? The issue is that a lot of people, first of all, a lot of people conflate education with intelligence, and being educated does not necessarily make you smart. I have met a shitload of stupid smart people.
Yeah, that Richard Gilbo guy he's at one of the top of my list of stupid smart people.
You shouldn't have actually named him completely, but it's
Nope.
like, yeah,
I know.
it's like you see, you know, these people who talk like this, and it's like, you know, they go like, for instance, because there's a lot of brainy people who play Warhammer 40K. It's like these people going in and going, "Oh, you don't like women, and I'm right because I'm so much smarter than you are." And I mean, I've literally run into people, even though, by the way, I have an actual degree from for my chosen profession. I have a degree from a technical institution that is one of the functional equivalents of getting a fucking engineering degree from MIT. I went to Vancouver Film School. It's probably one of the top 4 or 5 film schools in the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is film. Obviously, it's not engineering, it's not science, but I mean, yeah, I lean the way I lean, folks. Deal with it, right? But I got
Is that how you roll?
Yeah, that's how I roll. And by the way, it's like it is whether you even if you think it's film, it is like, I mean, like a degree from Vancouver Film School carries more weight than a film degree from Harvard. Yeah, I hate to fucking break it to you, but that's just the way it rolls, folks. Uh and I get these people going, "Oh, I have a degree, therefore I'm so much," and I'm incredibly smart crowd, right? That lean in to their degrees. And we're really getting off topic here. Are we getting off topic?
We have,
Yeah.
but that's par for course for us.
Yeah. Uh, and they lean into their degrees, and it's like, and it's like I had one dude. Oh, I have 2 master's degrees. You got nothing. Well, actually, I do have a degree in something, and I actually have a degree in something that is probably, for its field, probably better than any place that you went to, right? But it's like, oh, well, it's just film. And it's like, yeah, well, okay, since you have 2 master's degrees, I guess you know all about sourcing. I guess you know about fact checking. So when you made the claim that this particular site was filled with Trump people, I actually went back and I sourced it. All right, you know all about sourcing, so fucking fact checking. Blah 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 blah, dude. You're fucking smart. Take the fucking time and source what I just said. Prove me wrong. Blah blah blah. It's like, dude, like, fuck, do it or shut the fuck up. Whoa, I'm not gonna do that. I'm smarter than you. It's like, it doesn't fucking matter whether you think you're smarter than me. You're educated. You know about sourcing your material, so fucking source what you're saying or shut the fuck up. Right? Blah blah blah. It's like, I run into this.
Sounds like, well, if education would make people smart, then we wouldn't have had such an idiot by the name of Justin Trudeau ruining Canada.
Well, I mean,
There.
and by the way, I mean, um, you know, uh, and it's like, and these people, oh, I'm incredibly intelligent. It's like, well, that doesn't fucking matter, dude. It doesn't matter what your education is. It's like, if you don't have the evidence to back up what you're saying, right? Like, and I present evidence and you don't, and your claim is I have a degree in this, therefore I'm right, and all your evidence is wrong. You still got to prove me wrong. But anyway, so getting back to the original point here, and yeah, academics I have met, and this is the same sort of thing when it applies to race baiters, specifically the, like, I mean, for instance, on one of the groups that I follow on Facebook, they actually had, like, it's a site that's critical of feminism. And this guy came in and started talking about racism. We started talking about slavery. We are kings, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, dude, what the fuck does this have to do with feminism? Like, go somewhere else. Blah, 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 blah. Dude, like, did you read the title of the group? Like,
Just because,
fuck off already.
just because you're educated don't mean you're smart there, boy.
Blah,
That's
blah, 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 blah. They ended up booting him because it was like he was intentionally race baiting. And it's like, I've seen what happens to groups when they get into the race baiting. Cause, like, I mean, I hate, like, I hate saying it, man, but some of those anti-white hating fucking black racists are worse than the fuck, are like by degrees worse. Actually, they will stick to their stupidity as much, if not more, than the worst white racists white supremacists that I've run into. Like, literally, there's no difference between them at all. And you know, so getting back to this point at all, it's like, well, a lot of this too, that what happened with Shilo Hendricks, a lot of this is also in response to what happened with Carmelo Anthony. When Carmelo Anthony had his um when he had his GoFundMe up, and there were individuals, white hating black racists, that were posting stuff up cheering Carmelo Anthony on because he killed a white person. Allegedly. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I will remember to use the word allegedly. But yeah, and it's like, that response, and they were, again, this is the same thing with trolls. They were actually gloating about the fact they were, quote unquote, pissing off Whitey. Well, congratulations, you pissed off Whitey. And the result on that is that Shilo Hendricks got a massive amount of support because people are just fucking sick and tired of the fucking narrative.
well, I think it's more along the lines of people are starting. It's starting to happen on both sides, as you've already mentioned. People are tired of the victim industrial complex. That's really the only way to. That's the only words I can put to it to give it any sort of a name. And I mean, it's no different. It's honestly, it is no different than what I see happening in Canada while it's still available or while it's still around with the freaking natives. Like they spend so much on lawyers, not to say that they haven't gotten screwed, but you question anything about them and you're labeled a racist and this and that and the other thing. And I mean, shit, I've seen it with David Eby, the BC premier. But again, we're getting off topic here.
Well, I mean, getting going back to the native thing. There was a guy in Calgary who drove. He didn't get off the road. He didn't stop. What he did is he just kind of went through this one. There's this road that runs through the reservation, and he took his camera out and he recorded the houses as he was going through.
Okay.
And he went back and he posted it up on YouTube. And the reservation tried to file criminal charges, and they tried to send him, they tried to fine him and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, I'll see you in court, asshole. Because one, I didn't actually get off the road. I didn't actually trespass because I was on public property, because the road is public property. You don't actually own the road. But I mean, they were like, they were actually, I think they were even potentially trying to file criminal charges on him. But again, right, and I know this because this is something that I know a little bit about. Right, there are and this is also this whole thing around the reservations in Alberta separation, right?
Yep.
Get these chiefs acting, and that's what it is. It's all just performative. They're acting as though, they're just pretending as though they've got the power of veto over the Alberta separation vote. And they don't, but they're acting like they do to fool people. And it's like, no, you don't actually have a veto, so shut the fuck up. Stop pretending as though you did. So, but again, right, this performative is to fool idiots like, Jan Arden, into saying some of the stupid shit that she said. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring up that Jan Arden.
Twat. Did I say twat? I said twat. I meant cunt. Not that I listen to her fucking music, because I don't.
There's one song that I kind of like about it, but and listening to it now, it's like,
Well,
ugh.
that's like listening to Young at this point because he's so anti-oil and whatever else. I don't listen to his shit anymore. I don't like. I don't care to listen to his shit.
Well, I mean, it's like the same thing. Again, we're getting off way off topic.
Yeah,
The
we
same
are.
thing with Michael Jackson, right? It's like, um, he appears to have been a pedophile, right? He was never convicted, but the way he reacted, like, I mean, that whole trial, like as soon as he was found not guilty, they like literally hustled him into the limousine, drove him to the airport, and flew him to Dubai, and to a country where they couldn't extradite him, like immediately. And even in Dubai, they couldn't find him, right? And he only came back. He came back on a private plane. He would do his show, and he would be like, when he came back to do performances or whatever, like he would only do it privately, or he would come in, he would do his video, he'd be here for like a day, maybe two, and then he would get back on the plane and would fly away before the people, like the legal eagles, could descend on where he was to get to him.
Yeah.
So again, right, this is not anything new or different or anything like that. This is, so yeah, like this whole situation with this whole situation with this particular, and of course, once again, Teams is refusing to boot up to remind me of what the topic is.
Uh, Shilo.
Shilo
Yeah,
Hendricks,
Hendricks.
yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I mean, this whole thing with Shilo Hendricks was long overdue. Uh, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And again, there's certain individuals on the black side that are deliberately, like, I mean, yeah, like you're getting individuals, for instance, on Facebook and whatnot, that are like deliberately going in, even groups that aren't connected, and posting this stuff up. And at this point, and also something else that you're seeing on Facebook now is you're seeing a lot of anonymous posters posting up. And what they will do, and this is something I even saw, and when we get to topic number 4, I'll get into this a little bit more. I saw a number of anonymous posters on pro separatist groups on Facebook deliberately posting up stuff. And of course, they would never put their name, they would never put their face to it.
Mm-hmm.
But with the ones that did, this might come as a real shock to you, but they had privated profiles.
Oh no!
So they were either anonymous, or they were privated, or they were like, they looked like they were new profiles, and it would be like, and they would post up stuff that could be intentionally twisted as white supremacist or anti-Semitic and whatever, and they would post up anonymously, and then they would leave, and they would get their shit called out. And it was like, and if you weren't careful, right, you had to go and tell the moderators or the administrators of these sites, it's like, yeah, you gotta fucking remove this, right? Like, this guy's being a delivery. Like, for instance, right, just today, I looked up I looked on the MGTOW group, and there's somebody in there that is desperately trying to conflate feminism to Judaism. And it's like, and I'm having to go, I had to call this guy out, and I'm probably going to have to go back and go, yeah, you can't fucking have. And there was somebody who was Jewish that was actually calling this dude out because, yeah, believe it or not, there are actually Jews in the manosphere. There's actually quite a few of them.
Really?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few of them. In fact, there's actually a website called Israeli MGTOW at one point, right?
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, men are men across this plane of existence, and by and large, females are all the same as well too.
Yep. So I mean, yeah, you're looking at So it was like, yeah, and it was like he's being called out. It's sort of like, yeah, like you're starting to see a lot more of that clandestine shit where they're posting this stuff up and then coming back later and going, oh, well, look at that. That person posted up this. And it's like, it's an attempt to get these sites taken down, is what it is, right? So you have to like basically be right on top of these people to make sure that they're not pulling this crap, right? Same thing around this. I mean, they tried to pull every they even tried to go after GiveSendGo itself to try to get that site pulled down.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously didn't work. I mean, again, right? They're I mean, they're kind of like realizing it's not going to work any longer, so they're kind of backing away from it. But again, like I have to point something out about Shilo Hendricks. Shilo Hendricks, had this happened maybe even a year or two earlier, Shilo Hendricks would have had to go into complete hiding, and she probably would have had to go back and live with her parents or something like that. And she would not have been able to hold down a job. She would have had to change her name. She would have had to change her identity. She would have had to like instead, right? You know, she's got a fighting chance to keep going. And again, I love, love, love how they keep overlooking, or probably especially the mainstream media, how they keep overlooking the fact that the guy who actually did this recording was a fucking sex offender hanging out in a kid's fucking playground. That just blows my mind.
Who happened to be black?
Who happened to be black?
Oh my god. Well, if individuals, I'll just leave it at that, are going to lose their shit over this because you have to point out that the sex offender happens to have darker skin color, then you're not dealing with not intelligent individuals, but honestly enlightened individuals that do not like the truth. And I don't want to say this, but one should question being associated with them. Not because of what happened between Shilo and the offender, but with the person that just cannot deal with the reality of how despicable that individual is. And they're being emotional and not logical. There, that's what the nicest way that I can say that.
Of course, they're being emotional and not logical. Again, like, I mean, yeah, no, I'm not going to say that black racists are stupider than white racists because they're both equally stupid. I've had to call out white supremacists. I've had to call out white supremacists because I had posted up something from Redacted about black preppers and about how they're being accused of being white supremacists and whatever. And this one guy on
I'm not gonna. Well, Canadian prepper, he looks like he's mulatto.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, there's actual African and blacks that are actual full blown preppers, right? Yeah. And because they're preppers, they're being ostracized by the black community because they're actually capable of thinking. And what ended up happening is on BitChute, when I posted that up, is that some fucking white supremacist was like, say, started going off on a fucking racial. Again, he used the N-word, he used the nigger word, and I fucking pointed out to him, it's like, yeah, dude, it's like, oh, well, the average black person isn't this right. It's like, yeah, you're talking about averages here. Like, that's not to say that individual black people can't fucking put 2 and 2 together, because they can't, right? It's like, yeah, prepping is not a racially. I mean, there's a lot more whites that are doing it, but I mean, I've met more than a few Asians that are quietly on board as well. Mm-hmm. I don't mean Asians. I'm talking about Chinese and Japanese, not people from India. But I've seen more than a few non-whites actually jumping on board with this as well. So, prepping is not, again, right? There's nothing that is exclusively white about prepping, right? But again, right, we just keep going back to the fact that once again,
we're stuck around this black hole. Come on, gotta break the tension here somehow. Let's just put this to bed.
Yeah, well, I was about to put it to bed. Yeah, it's like, I mean, people are just getting sick and tired of this shit. They are, right? They've had it. And this is it. And you're, once again, just like you're seeing the SJWs and you're seeing Antifa freak out, it's like you're seeing people who've had a lot of fun over the last 10 to 12 years, or 10 to 15 years, engaging in cancel culture and grandstanding about social justice and blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, you're seeing these people not getting their way anymore, and they're screaming like they're screaming like a bunch of immature brats, which they always were. And with that, let's move on to the next topic.
Thank you. Oh yeah, this one.
Yeah, you're going first on this one, which is good because I need to use the bathroom anyway.
Oh well, fine. Use me as an excuse. That's fine. I don't really care.
All right. Well, that's because I
that's what friends are for.
Deliberately waited for you to do this topic so that I could go to the bathroom here.
Asshole. Which you might be using. I don't know. I don't care. All right. Mark Carney.
Okay, 125. Yeah. Hold on a second. Let me just timestamp this.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So Mark. Oh wow.
Mark Carney
it didn't.
Mark Carney attempting multiple recounts to get himself into a majority in the Canadian House of Commons. Oh,
and of course, it actually backfired on him because he ended up losing a seat. But I will let you deal with that. I am going to go to the bathroom because that's what happens when you start talking.
Great to know that I have some influence over Naroki's bowel movements. All right. Okay, well, this all goes back to the Canadian election that Mark Carney had won. I am honestly of the opinion that Pierre Poilievre, whatever you want to call him, however you want to say his name, because much like myself, I've heard every possible variation of my last name, and he's no different. And my opinion is that we've seen, if you've been watching what's happened south of the Canadian border with the U.S. with the election rigging for 2020, I don't think it's been honestly any different with what we just had about 3 weeks ago now. Shit, it's been that long already. And there was a recount, and like, I'm going to wait till Naroki gets back on this one, but there's a recount. There have been recounts that have happened. Not too far away from where I was born. Milton, Halton Hills, Milton, South. I don't know what that electoral district is, but anyway, I know exactly where it is. In Canada, when the election votes, when the ballots are tallied, and if it's within, I believe, 200 votes, this might be the American thing, I don't remember, my apologies, but you have to go into a recount. And there were 3 or 4 ridings, I believe, where they did a recount. And there was one riding, and it might be Milton, don't quote me on it, federally speaking, where it was Liberal candidate, recounted it was Conservative, and then it went back to being a Liberal winner. Now, the number to get a majority in Canada, I do believe, is 100 and... I don't know what the number is. It's 170 something, I believe. Give me a moment here.
It's 1.5. If the vote is within 1%, an automatic recount is issued.
Oh, that's how it works? Okay. Mm-hmm. And what's the number needed for majority? 180? 181? 175?
Yes.
There are 343 seats, so that's 34.
He needed 172, and Carney has 169, I think.
I think he's at about 170 now. But anyway, he's inched closer. He's just shy of that majority.
For which we can all be grateful, by the way.
Um, I don't think it really matters, to be quite honest with you, man, because Carney's going to keep doing what Carney's going to keep doing. I'm also of the opinion that Carney was placed in there by Trump to break Canada up, for lack of a better way to say it. I know it sounds a little bit strange and weird, but
I think they've worked out some kind of a deal. That visit that Carney had down to Washington seemed a little bit too cordial for my liking.
well, he campaigned intensively. He campaigned on a lot of American negativity, and the Ontario voters, and that's what I'll call them. I don't care what happens out in BC, but I mean, at the end of the day, and the people in the Maritimes, they're in their own little bloody freaking world. Don't want to call them. I don't want to call them welfare recipients, but they seem to have that victim mentality as well too. If we're going to go there again, but
We'll
you know,
call them the fish people.
I mean, I've known people from the area. They are wonderful people. They really are. But there's so many things that are just wrong with what's happened with the election. But the only thing that makes any sense, and we got Sean Fraser. He stepped out because he's from. Okay, that'll be another topic for another time. If I'm on and we're going to talk about it, much like the chicanery, the fuckery that happened with the 2020 election, we're seeing the same thing happen here. I've heard of 5 boxes of ballots that were found out in Nunavut, which is in the middle of but nowhere in extreme northern Canada. I don't know where. Probably where the airport is for the main point of entry for the territory. Yeah, probably Nunavut itself. There was advanced ballots that were mailed out that were returned to people that had voted because it was the wrong address. Like, you don't, as an organization, Elections Canada, there should be no reason for shit like that to be happening. And advanced poll votes didn't seem to get counted, but everything else seemed to have happened as well too. I've heard somebody put towards that statistically it was impossible for Carney to get the numbers that he did. And again,
Well,
given
statistically speaking, it would have been almost mathematically impossible for Carney to get the same consistent percentage vote in every single riding, including the one where his chief opponent, Chrystia Freeland, was running against him. It would have been statistically impossible for every single riding to get between 85 and 95% of the vote on every single riding in the entire country, including the riding where it's Chrystia Freeland was running. So, yeah, there's
yeah,
also that.
and there's so much fuckery that's gone on. I don't honestly know what to say. I really honestly don't. And to me, at the end of the day, it's the shit that's going to be happening in Canada is going to be coming in hard and really fast. And it's going to get ugly. But again, as I've said, I really am of the opinion that all of this is all being done because, well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Canada, federally speaking, Canada is a bankrupt country. So the federal government is bankrupt. Like, it is bankrupt. There's nothing there. The loony, Carney wants to spend $250 billion that we don't have over 4 years for, quote, investments, which for intelligent people that have discernment. There we go. That's what we need to say. People that have I'm non-educated, but I do have discernment. A lot of this stuff is going to be pushed through, my opinion, to get for the corporation that is called the federal government of Canada has to become bankrupt, and I believe that that's where we are headed. I can't prove it, but my gut keeps telling me that's what's going to happen. That's where it's going. So buckle up, Buttercup, because changes have to come through, and you can't do that if you're in a system that's working or the system is trying to get fixed from within, which is what I know that Polyev would have been doing, is to actually get the country back on its feet. I have asked twice on Phil Gotlinski's Rumble channel about this. He's apparently well enough connected. That's all I'm just going to say. And I asked about Trudeau and Singh. How much longer do we have to endure that? I mean, his reply was, not for much longer, but that's a very relative term. And then I asked about Canada being absorbed into the U.S., and he said it's going to be something like the EU, or it's going to be like an economic union. Because I remember reading about that in the National Post, I think it was, back in 2006, where they were talking about an economic North American Union like the EU. So, and I believe this to be the case, is that they're still waiting to implement something like that. It's just that it takes time for people at that point to either die and pass on, or for people to forget about it. And I'm one of those people that has not forgotten about it. So, with all of this fuckery, with Carney and the questionable election results, my opinion being, this is all on purpose. This is all supposed to be happening to what it has to go through. But I am of the opinion that rather than it being for the globalists, this is going to be more for the white hat operation, which will have to pretend to be the globalists. I know it's a little bit fucking complicated. Believe me, this is why that I don't really talk to people about this sort of thing, because they're not going to get it. So, and really all that this is going to do, as I see it, is going to encourage more and more of the Alberta separation movement to happen. And shit's going to get worse before it gets any better. So we'll see. And I don't think Carney's going to make it to the end of the year. In fact, I don't think he's going to make it past November. Yes. And I'll say that because it kind of ties into, is it the next one? Which actually kind of ties in with O'Keefe Media and Prince Andrew, because Carney has been closely enough associated with Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman who's been thrown in prison. But
yeah, you're leading off on that one too, by the way.
Okay, yeah, and is there anything specific about it that ties him to her? No, not really, but pictures of them being together. Or, what did I see Carney? Carney was showing off some of the Illuminati symbolism with the hands. It was either the devil horns or it was going to be the triangle in front of him. So, my opinion is that the guy is a globalist through and through, and I'll go off on this tangent. You'll have to bear with me here. You're accommodating enough, and I appreciate that, my friend. But seeing as how Trump is very much of an anti-globalist, to say the least, I think what's going on here is that he's got the goods on him, and he's being used, or Carney's already been executed, and there's a body double that has to be led down the pathway, and will have to go into the rabbit hole to some degree or another. So That's my take on it so far. I could be wrong. I have no idea. I have no idea where this is all going to go because it's fucking futz is what it is. So there we go. What do you got?
All right, my take on this. Of course, he was going. I mean, there's also rumors that he's trying to convince a couple of NDP MPs to flip over. He didn't get the majority. That's unfortunate, and there is enough between him and the NDP to form a coalition government. The only problem is that Jagmeet Singh absolutely gutted the NDP or like he literally fell on his sword so that the Liberal, and so did the Greens, by the way. Greens pulled 100 people pulled 100 people out of ridings to make sure that people voted Liberal. Everybody.
Here's a funny thought. Could you imagine a not so sober Elizabeth May as this House Speaker?
Anyway, so yeah. By the way, the Speaker of the House before it was shut down was a guy who outright blatantly fucking lied about the trucker convoy. He tried to play the race card, Mr. Fergus. Yeah, remember that about him.
Oh, God,
yeah. Okay. So my personal take on this, it's I like the Jesse Ventura comparison. It's all professional wrestling. Of course, Carney had to do that in order to guarantee that he's won, but he still has to deal with Trump, and Trump has made it very, very clear what his stand is going to be. And Carney is a numbers guy. I will say what you will about him. Carney can look at the numbers. He knows about the trade imbalance. He knows about all this stuff. He knows about what the U.S. tariffs are going to do. So he is going to play ball with Trump. He has to. He really doesn't have much any other choice. Although Carney has not said a lot about Alberta separation so far, either because he's been too busy dealing with other issues or he's trying to pretend as though it's not that important to like the issue. He doesn't consider the issue important, but he damn well better. Carney knows, like he knows he's not an idiot. Like he's not nearly as stupid as Trudeau. He's a numbers guy. He can see he knows the numbers, right? I mean, you know that like for instance, the mainstream media when it comes to Alberta is attempting to downplay Alberta's contribution to it. The only problem is that that's like, I mean, I literally had somebody again on one of the Alberta independent sites on Facebook tried to post this. Oh, well, let's talk about the rumor that Alberta's carrying the entire economy, and he like showed that Alberta, and this is something that I already know. Alberta's the fourth largest economy of the provinces, right? So everybody's response to him is, well, you know, if Ontario and BC and Quebec are so much bigger, how come they're not the ones contributing to equalization? Yeah, guy went fucking, or he tried to like
crickets.
He went crickets, or he went ad hominem, or he would accuse us of being insane. It's sort of like, oh, just okay, show us where Ontario and BC are making contributions to equalization. Yeah, guess what? Most of it's coming out of Alberta, right? Oops. Yeah, your economies are bigger, but you're obviously not generating the surplus like Alberta is, right? So it's like all of it's coming out. So Carney knows. Like he knows the people. He's not an absolute brain dead fucking mental midget like Trudeau is. Carney is aware of the economic situation. He knows that if Alberta fucking goes, Canada will not last as a country. And the situation that's come, which is, by the way, why you're seeing the mainstream media, why you're seeing fucking morons like Jan Arden fucking rant on like blithering fucking idiots. Sorry, that video by Jan Arden was like, oh, just shut the fuck up, right?
Tell me how you really feel.
Well, seriously, it's like what you're doing to the Indians is criminal. I said, well, what are we doing to the? This was like literally that was the quote of the woman who responded. What are we doing to the Indians?
I
Right?
would ask the question: are we talking about what Alberta is doing to them? Because Alberta really doesn't have the jurisdiction to deal with natives. It typically is going to be
Yeah,
Ottawa.
it's got to be the federal government. So tell me, what are we doing? Can you be specific? And of course, yeah, Jen Arden went quiet. I made sure to throw this back in her face because she fucking on Twitter because she fucking absolutely deserved it. The Carney has got a real and it doesn't fucking help that the leader of the BQ says, "Oh, we have this surplus budget thanks to Alberta transfer payments, but we do not want any of that stinking, dirty oil and gas coming from Alberta." I'm like,
Or
like looking at him and going, "Really?"
or Alberta's culture is, what does Alberta have for culture besides oil? It's like, oh, you asshole. Oh, that's what I'm going to say as well too, is that the BQ is going to be pushing for looking into with the Terrebonne voting, because that
Yeah.
was also questionable. Anyway, sorry about that. My apologies.
Anyway, yep. So it's like you would figure out that if Alberta is on the verge of separate, and that's what Daniel Sith pointed out. It was when the BQ and when the province of Quebec started acting like a fucking spoiled fucking brat. That was the icing on the cake, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people in Quebec entirely get how fucking shortchanging the federal and provincial government have been to Quebec over the years. There's enough, for instance, there's enough LNG, and it's situated between Montreal and Quebec City. There's enough LNG, and this is, by the way, liquid natural gas, which isn't a greenhouse producing carbon based. It's natural gas.
Okay. Yeah, but when natural gas is burned, it turns into carbon dioxide.
No, it turns into water. It turns into water. It doesn't contribute to greenhouse gases. Oil does. Natural gas doesn't.
Okay.
And then the provincial government and the federal government are just refusing. They're doing everything they can to bury this, making sure that most people in Quebec don't even know that it's there. And they're doing everything they can to exploit the resources of Nunavut in the Northwest Territory, but they're not doing anything in northern Quebec, which probably has an absolute abundance of natural resources as well. And they're doing it because they're getting corporate wealth. They're getting government welfare from fucking Alberta.
They're getting provincial welfare.
Or they're getting provincial welfare from fucking Alberta. Right? They're getting it from us. And then they have the nerve to call what we're doing for them dirty, and they call us a bunch of spoiled brats, even though not that long ago, I remember, because we were playing Dungeons and Dragons the night that vote was held, remember?
Yep, I do remember
30 years ago. I was constantly going up to look at the election results, and it was
I thought I was working that night.
And no, we were playing down in the we were we were at the Boo. You were at the Boo, yeah, and they had the vote on it. They had the vote on it at the restaurant up above, and it was like, and there's a lot of, it was, and it's like, there, Carney has probably, which is why he's being really dead quiet about this. Carney has figured out that he's got he can't follow a fucking globalist agenda. If he tries to do the same thing to the farmers here that they tried to do in Western Europe to the farmers there, Alberta will definitely leave. If he tries to place any restrictions on Alberta energy development, Alberta's going to leave. If he gets too publicly insulting towards. We've covered this before. Like everything he's going to do, except acknowledge that Alberta's that there's a problem there and that it needs to be fixed. Anything other than that is going to land him in trouble, which is the reason why he's staying quiet about this. However, he doesn't have to worry so much if he gets the majority, which is why he's pushing for it. His option B is to try to get a couple of NDP MPs to flip over, which I don't think is going to happen. He will be able to offer the NDP party status so that he can form a coalition with them. The only problem is that
That's going to
because
get
of what,
challenged.
yeah, is that the
That's
only
gonna get
problem is
challenged.
that JAG meets. It's going to immediately fall under a legal challenge. The NDP, because of what Jagmeet Singh has done to him, they're a little bit fucking pissed right now at the leadership of the NDP because it's very fucking clear that the NDP sold out to ensure that Carney won, right? So they're in trouble. Like they are in big fucking trouble. And again, right, the NDP's not gonna so and going to the bloc. And again, if he tries to bring the bloc in and tries to form an alliance with the bloc, and the bloc continues to be acting like a bunch of snotty little fucking brats to Alberta, like they've been continuing to act, yeah, that's not going to go too well for them. Yep. It's it's not really going to work out very well for them. They cannot really afford it. Well, what it more or less boils down to, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again: if Alberta leaves, the country is fucked, and they damn well know that the only way they're going to keep Alberta in the fold is basically to fucking assuage to their demands. They're going to have to fucking back off on the globalist crap. Like, there's no other way around it. And even then, they've got Trump on their southern border, looking to, like, he's either going to try and get pieces like Alberta for sure. Although he's been curiously silent on the whole Alberta issue, but I mean, he's like
he can't. He if he opens his mouth, it's gonna screw everything up.
Yeah, he's been curiously quiet about this. So yeah, so I mean, Carney won, but the way he won is he didn't quite get over the line. Unlike, so it's like they can't pull the same bullshit with because they can't pull the same bullshit with Poliev like they pulled with Marine Le Pen in France because they don't have anything on him. He's not that type of a politician. Like Marine Le Pen was the descendant of Maurice Le Pen, who, let's face it, back in the day, Maurice Le Pen was definitely, he would have, like, I don't think he's so far right now, but I mean, he was definitely fall into the category of a white supremacist, I think. But it's gonna be, he cannot pull any global, he can't fucking get heavy-handed with Alberta, for instance, unless he has a fucking majority, right? Because if he, like, for instance, if he tries to get heavy-handed with Alberta without a majority, well, I mean, again, right? He's hanging on by a thread, and anything other than a liberal majority where he can basically hold on and not have to worry about losing a non-confidence vote, he's going to be in a very precarious situation. And, he can't, which is why one of the reasons, for instance, why I haven't seriously looked at moving to the U.S. yet. But I mean, again, right, if a vote was held today on Alberta separation, like, my vote would be yes. So yeah, he needs the only way he can do the globalist fucking bidding is if he gets a majority. If he doesn't get a majority, then he's fucking screwed. And he damn well knows it because the NDP is going to sell. The NDP is in the process of self-destructing. And the BQ and the PQ in Quebec just cannot keep their fucking mouths shut. And at this point, they don't seem to be aware of the fact. I mean, it's like they're aware of that they're separatist parties, but they seem absolutely fucking clueless about what's going on in Alberta and why there's a significant portion of the Alberta population that wants to separate. Like they just seem to not want to know or care about that, and that's going to be a big issue with them. So yeah, no kidding, he's trying to get a majority. I don't think Carney's going to do it because the NDP knows that they've only got a couple of cards to play, and they don't have those cards if an NDP MP flips. So they're not like the NDP winners, which by the way includes the riding that I'm in. None of those individuals are gonna like flip, right? Because they want to. They're gonna. He's gonna have to do something about it. And again, right? There's also the like. Oh wow. I almost feel sorry for Carney, except that he's a fucking globalist. So that's all I'm going to say about this one. Let's move on to the next topic, which, by the way, you're also taking the lead on.
Yeah, only because I brought it to your attention. All right. O'Keefe Media exposes Prince Andrew. Oh, it's about time that this finally started to happen. That's all I'm going to say. Now, much like Virginia Guffrey, or at the time Virginia Roberts was photographed with Andy, since he basically has been kicked out of the family at the Royal Family Corporation, shall we say, because of how he couldn't keep it in his pants. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to say it, and that's the nicest way I'm going to be able to say it. I remember when Epstein was first. I remember when he was put in jail. I didn't understand it at the time as to how big of an individual he was. I mean, he got off with a light slap on the wrist for all intents and purposes. And again, Trump was the only person that was testifying against Epstein. The only one. So anybody has a problem with him is like, well, considering that he did this, the fact that you're losing your mind over everything else that he does, well, good for you. Can't see the bigger picture here. Anyway, we did talk about Virginia Guffrey and her accident in Australia, and I think that she did die or she passed away. At least that's what the official story is. And she had put out there that
she committed suicide. Except no, it was she died after a bus accident. That's what it was. Yeah,
something like that. And she did also put out there that if she's not going to be committing suicide, and she is not suicidal, and it's the same thing as what O'Keefe had just put out before all of this. And I will say that the videos that I've seen O'Keefe in, he's always been very confident. I won't quite say cocky, but he's been very confident in the stories that he's about to break. And he said the same thing as well too. I'm just letting everybody know in this video that I am not suicidal. I am not going to kill myself. Nothing like that is going to happen. So basically, if something does happen to me, I've got a really big story that somebody does not want. There will be people that don't want this to get out.
Andrew Tate does that too, constantly. Not suicidal, definitely not suicidal.
No, I don't see him being that way as well too, and that's fine. I don't have an issue. No matter what I may feel of Tate, and I really don't have an opinion, but we'll leave him alone. But again, Virginia Roberts Epstein was something that I don't remember the woman's name that was she was in the mainstream media. They had all of this information, and it got quashed by her higher up, who probably got it from high enough up the chain of command. If her immediate superior, I'm guessing, I'm alleging, could very well be involved with could very well have been involved in one form or another um, with what Epstein is all about. I don't know. I can't say for certain. Actually, I can't say at all. I can just guess. So, my opinion is that if O'Keefe dies under mysterious circumstances, that he's been whisked away for his own safety. And again, that movie was Schwarzenegger and former Penthouse pet, black woman model actress, Vanessa Williams. They had to die in a